Welcome back everybody to another video. In this video I am going to be using a nice piece of 1-inch teak to make an outdoor sign for a friend of ours who just opened a brand new barn restaurant just a few miles down the road from me. Been friends with the guy for a long time, so we're going to make him a nice sign for his business hours. The hours are going to be carved in the piece of wood with a 60-degree downcut V-bit. And then we're going to also laser etch his logo in the top of it. So I'm going to go over everything with you guys in Vectric Aspire on how I lay it out and how I set up the tool pass. And then we're going to come back. I'm going to show you how we cut it out. Stay tuned. Alright guys, on to the computer part of it here. I'm already in Vectric Aspire. I have my job size. The width is 15 inches by 24. And the teak panel is 1 inch thick. We're going to be zeroing from the material surface and also in the bottom left corner. Modeling resolution very high, and we're going to click OK. So the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and import the logo that we're going to laser burn. You're going to go to File and go to Import, and we're going to import a bitmap. It's an image file. Okay. So here's our image file. I was a little bit worried about doing this one. I originally tried to do this to burn it as an image and not as a like a cut fill. So it didn't turn out very good doing it as an image file. So what I did was I converted all this to vectors, doing the vector trace option. And I'm going to show you how I did that if you're new to Aspire. So we're going to go right here, guys, under file, or I'm sorry, not file operations. It's under create vectors, which is the little bird right here. We're going to click on that. And what you want to do on a similar file, for some reason the fish, the mahi-mahi here, looked pretty good. This looked okay. You can see the darker shadow on this, and then the hamburger looked really bad. It had a lot of shadow in it. So what you guys want to do is go right here, make sure you're on black and white. It's a black and white logo. You want to adjust the number of colors, the threshold right here. So I know from doing the file already, it needs to be down quite a bit lower. I think I did it right around 0.27 on my other file. So you'll watch here. Let me zoom up just a little bit more, like on the cheeseburger here. As you slide the slider down, you can see the shadowing going away on that. And I think I settled right around 0.27. So you could still see the detail, but obviously if you were to burn it back where it was, you would just have black blotches all over your engraving here. So we're going to leave it at I guess leave it at 0.28. I'm not going to burn on this file, so even if I'm off by a point or two, it doesn't matter. The noise filter I turned up to 4. I don't think it made a huge difference. I just know on my test it looked good doing it that. And then let me zoom out so you guys can see. So once you get your settings where you think they need to be, you're going to hit preview, and then we're going to apply it and close it. Then what you want to do is come up here to your layer, and you want to turn off the little light bulb here on your bitmap layer, so that'll get rid of the image file and leave you with the tracing. And that's what we got left with. I was really concerned of how dark this was and how many little circles and lines and everything there was, but when I ran the test, it turned out really good. So I don't believe that there was any additional node editing that I did on this file. It's just one of those rare instances when you trace something, there wasn't a whole lot I had to do on it. All these little squiggles on the font here, they actually turned out really well. So what we're going to do now is highlight it, drag across it, highlight it all. I'm going to group it, which is right here. That way they're not individual vectors. Underneath Edit Object, it's the fourth one over. That'll go ahead and that'll group it all together. We'll click that. And we're going to move it up to the top. Make sure your snapping is on, guys. That's these two right up here. These two buttons right here are your smart snapping and your geometry snapping. That'll help you center it, whatever you're doing. So for sake of this video not taking forever, I'm going to steal it off my file that's already done. Let me move me out of the way here. For some reason, when I screen record, it doesn't let me pop up my start menu. It's so annoying. So bear with me for a second. It's still not letting me do it. Oh, there it goes. So this is the finished file that I had, just for sake of, oops. Oh crap, hang on. That doesn't matter. It might just be running a little bit slow for me because I have two Aspires open. So I just copied the text that I used. I'm going to paste it on here just for sake of time. I'm sure everybody knows how to use the text tool. It's right here, guys. If you've never done text, it's under Create Vectors, the T, which is right here. So it's selected. Let me pull up the text here so you can see what happens. So what I did was on this, I matched the font on the bar and grill portion of this. I matched it as good as I could. I think there was, no, I don't have an R. I was trying to find one that had the R. I'm going to show you guys a quick little trick here on if you're trying to match a font, if you don't know how to do this, there's plenty of websites out there where you can actually upload your image to the website that does the font matching, and it'll tell you, it'll give you a whole list of possible fonts that are going to be as close to this or whatever part of the image file you're looking to copy. So I use that a lot on when I make signs, just to try to keep fonts the same. If I made this logo, obviously I would know what I did, but I didn't. So I try always to somewhat coordinate, you know, to make it look a little bit nicer. I didn't want some completely different font so it doesn't match up here. Give me 1 second. I'm going to pull up that website that I used. So this is one of the sites that I've used before that does pretty well. It's under myfonts.com. You can just go to Google and Google font detector, and there'll be a few of them. But all you do is you go right here and upload your image. I'll do it again real quick so you guys can see how it works. So there's a logo. It just uploaded, and you can see it already found some fonts here. But all you got to do is select whichever font you're trying to identify. Make sure it's only that font that's in there, and then just click Identify Font. And that's the very first one that I picked. I just noticed because it has that the bottom bar of the R has that like swoop to it or curve to it. And so that's the one that I actually ended up picking, was ITC Golden Type. And you know, this site wants $30 for it. I found it. It was a free download on a different website. I can't remember. So if some of these prices are ridiculous on a font, there's plenty of other ones out there that most of the time are free, or you can do a donation to the site or whatever. I just copy and paste whatever the font name is into Google, and generally you can find it that way. So anyway, that's how I find fonts a lot of times. So the first toolpath we're going to do is going to be the laser. Select your traced image, and we're going to go right over here, guys, to let me zoom in. Laser cut and fill. Okay, that's your very first one here. And like I've mentioned, if you haven't seen my other videos where I explain the laser, this is an add-on to Vectric software. It was around $50 for the add-on to be able to do laser. I'm giving you guys just a heads up that occasionally when you're using the software, Vectric software, with this laser, specifically with the LongMill, the MK2 CNC router, it does give you error codes occasionally on the G code. It's never affected anything. I just have to close out of the error and hit resume. But for instance, this was a really big laser job. It took, I think it was right around 5 hours, roughly, to laser that. And I think I got about 4 or 5 errors. On small jobs, it doesn't matter because I stay out here for it the whole time. But on a job like this, I'm not going to stand here for 6 hours and watch my laser go back and forth. I actually have a little camera that I put out, a little wireless camera that I put out here. So just be aware, they're still, I have emailed them about it, and I guess the laser man at CNC Labs is going to be working on it to try to figure it out why we get the error codes on this. But like I said, it doesn't affect it, and when you're laying out CNC carving and laser all in the same project, it's so nice to be able to do it on the same program so everything lines up right. But anyway, just a word of caution, it's not 100% working perfectly, but it works good enough to where I still use it. Okay, so back to the fill option here. And I know because I've already done it. I'm using the CNC Labs 7-watt diode laser. I'm running a power of 60% at 80 inches per minute. And you want to do the hatch fill option. So that's going to fill all the little vectors with laser. My step over is 0.003. My strategy, we are filling together. And that's all there is to that toolpath. We're going to calculate it. And it's going to take a minute, so I'm going to pause this so you don't have to watch the bar go across. Okay, the preview loaded. One thing you got to remember with the Vectric add-on for the laser, it's never going to give you, in my opinion, as good of a preview as, say, Lightburn does, but it gives you a pretty good rough idea of what it's going to look like. So let's go ahead and run this. I'll show you what the preview looks like here. Okay. But you can tell how dark this is, and it actually, like I said, you'll see it in the finished product. It actually looked really, really good the way it burned. So I was very happy with it. So I'm really happy, guys, with how this turned out. I think it looks really good. I am going to switch over to the V-bit, and then we're going to go ahead and get the hours carved in this. So stay tuned. Okay, on to the V-bit carving. Let's go back to 2D mode right here. Switch back to your 2D. And all we're going to do is select all of your text. Oh, close out of that. And we're going to go right here to the V. That's your V-carve option. Right in your toolpath, third one down. We're going to click that. You want your start depth of 0. And because I'm doing an epoxy fill on that, you want to do a flat depth. There's no reason to use more epoxy than you need. I have it set at 3/16 of an inch. I could have probably done an 1/8 inch, but I wanted a little bit more. So always do your flat depth, guys, if you're filling with epoxy. If not, sometimes it'll carve a lot deeper than you need, and you're wasting epoxy. There's no need for it. Okay, so under my tools, I use the Groovy Jenny down cut bit. It's a 60-degree down cut. Path depth is 1.875, which is the 3/16 of an inch, which it doesn't matter what you put in that box because it's going to override it with your flat depth. Step over is 2%. I'm running it at 60 inches per minute and a 30 inch per minute plunge on that. I generally do a clearance bit, an 1/8 inch normally, but it was only like a 2-minute difference in cut time on this, so I didn't do it on this one. If it was a different font where the letters are wider or something, you may want to go in here and use a, you know, an 1/8 inch bit or whatever you want to fit inside your cutouts to make it a little bit faster. But in this particular font, it didn't matter. And I believe that's all there is to this one, guys. You're going to calculate it. So this is saying there's a couple open vectors. I already went through them. It doesn't matter on this. It didn't affect anything. And there's the toolpath. So all your red lines are your travels and all your blues are your cuts. All right. Let me exit out of the tool and we'll preview that and we'll see how it looks. And just like that, you have a sign. This was a very, very simple project that pretty much anybody can do if you have a laser. You could, if you don't have a laser, you could still do these. You'd have to probably redo this font without all this shading behind it, just because it probably wouldn't look very good trying to cut that with a V-bit or whatever. But the rest of this logo, yeah, I would honestly, if I was going to carve this and epoxy fill it, I know the drink would probably turn out okay and possibly the fish, but because the burger has so much contrast and specks and stuff in it, I don't know how well that would do. That's something you might want to test on a scrap piece of wood, something that has that much detail to it. But anyway, I would probably take these pictures out, get rid of the shading on this here, and then carve it. You know, I'd use the same bit, the 60-degree V bit, carve it, and then fill that if you don't have a laser. But he liked the look of the laser because it's a little bit more of a rusticy bar inside, and it gives it a cool burnt look to it. So that's what I did. All right, I'm going to use my touch probe, the auto touch probe here, and get the this set back to 0. And I'm going to probe here on the computer X, Y, and Z. Oops. All right, well that turned out really good. In my last couple of videos, you've seen me use these, they're like jeweler's files to go in here and clean up all my lines and all my, up inside of all the letters and numbers here where the V-bit carved. I am going to go over it. I believe I'm going to use a 320 grit. Yep, I'm going to use that real fine pad that's already on here, 320 grit. I'm also going to sand very lightly over top of the lasered area to remove just a little bit of this char. It's actually not that bad. I had the air assist going, so it blows a lot of it away. But that's what I'm going to do. So all I'm going to do now is go through my jeweler's files. You see me use these in a couple of my other videos. I'll put a link description below. These are the most handy things that I've had for going through V carvings or fine detail carvings and cleaning up all your lines. It works really, really well. And you don't want to have any shavings or little, particles of, sawdust or wood in these when you pour your epoxy in here, because you don't want any floaters in the epoxy. So take the time and go through and clean out all your lines. So all I do is, after I'm done with the V-carve, cleaned out all the all the cuts, got all the wood chips and dust and everything else out of them. I do go over it with a tack cloth. Forgot to turn the camera on, but I do wipe everything out with the tack cloth. That helps to get all the dust out of this. I do use the dust collector, vacuum out all the, you know, the laser as good as I can. This is just a really cheap Ace Hardware polyurethane. Make sure you can focus on that. I use this because it dries in 15 minutes or less, handle in 1 hour. That way I can come back out, you know, the same day and epoxy it. The reason I put this on there, in case you've never done epoxy, it's important in my opinion to just spray the area that you're gonna be putting the epoxy in. I am using a black epoxy, and you don't want, so if you don't use this or you don't seal this first, sometimes when you put your black epoxy in, it'll actually bleed into the wood grain a little bit, and this prevents that from happening. So that's why you want to use a sealer of some sort. That's all there is to it. I'm gonna wait for this to dry. I'll give it probably an hour. I'm gonna go and eat some dinner, and we're gonna come back out and I'm gonna mix up the epoxy and pour this thing. All right, it's been about an hour. The epoxy I've been using for quite some time is the Super Clear. I use them primarily because it's a Florida company. I support my Florida businesses, and it works really, really well. So I'm using the tabletop. It's good for, I believe the tabletop's good for, I think it was 1/4 inch pours, maybe 1/2 inch pours. I can't remember. You have to look it up online. But that's for the shallow pours. You're gonna want to mix it 1 to 1. So 1 part epoxy, 1 part hardener. And I'm gonna do the Super Color black dye. I'll probably do about 5 drops or so. I'll show you how I judge the darkness of it, I guess, as you'd say. I picked up these syringes. These are the ones I use. I get these on Amazon. They're made by Bastine, I think is how you pronounce that. Let me make sure it's focused on that so you guys can see it. Yeah. But they come with 10 syringes, and they come with the tips, and these tips are perfect for the epoxy. I don't like suck the epoxy up with it, but I pull the plunger out and then fill it. So let's get on with it. One thing I'm not great at is judging how much epoxy I need, so I always try to make a little bit more than what I need. But you want to mix it real, real good. I'm going to start out with about 5 drops of this dye. It might be a little bit more, but I want it real, real dark. First couple drops are clear. I guess I didn't shake it enough, so I'm gonna put a couple more in. I generally mix this for about 2 to 3 minutes. You want it all the way incorporated, especially all that dye. And what I do, once I mix it for a couple of minutes, I actually hold it up to the light and I let it drain down, and I can look through it. If I can see through it, I know I want more dye. If I can't see through it, then I know it's about where I want it to be. It's almost like a smoke color now, something I want to add just a few more drops. That's perfect. I think that was 12 to 15 drops of the super colors to get it where I can't see through it at all. So I tip the syringe up over my cup like I'm doing to get the air, that little bit of air down there, and I just push it out. And I use two hands when I do this. That way, when I'm done filling one area, I can pull back on the syringe just a tiny bit to keep more from flowing out, and it keeps it a little bit cleaner, I think. So I went around with the propane torch. I went around one time, got all the bubbles out. I can already see them starting to pop back up again. So I'm going to give it about another 5 minutes. I'm going to go through and do it again. And I may have to do it a third time. It just depends. You just got to keep an eye on it. If you see a bunch more bubbles, just do it, you know, until they're pretty much gone. I've done it sometimes as much as 5 and 6 times. So check back in 5 minutes and hit it again. All right, it's been another 5 or 6 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and hit it one more time, see where we're at. Make sure, guys, when you do this epoxy, I was going to try to do it where it's pretty flush, but with this much epoxy, the chance of not getting it on the wood or overfilling, underfilling is very, you're going to. It's almost impossible to get it perfect on this many fillings that you have to do. Fill your cuts just a little bit higher than your wood surface, a little proud of the wood surface. That way, if you do miss a few bubbles, it's not that big of a deal because you're going to be on the very top and you're going to sand them off anyway, or surface it off. This one I might. These aren't very high off the wood, so I'll probably just put on a coarser sandpaper and go ahead and sand them. I'm probably not going to use a surfacing bit. The reason I'm not going to use a surfacing bit on this to go over this because I've already done the laser engraving, so I don't want to take the chance on it skimming. If this isn't, I didn't surface this board before I did it because it's already, for what it is, it's flat enough for what I'm doing. Generally, if you do epoxy, it's better to, you know, it's so much faster to surface it with your 1-inch surfacing bit than it is to sand it, but because I've already done the laser, I'm going to sand this. That way I don't take the chance on putting an extra like line or where you can see it where I surfaced it up top there. So that's what I'm going to do. We're going to let this dry overnight, and we are going to come back out here in the morning and I'm going to sand it all off. I'm probably going to do 3 coats of a spar polyurethane. This is going to be mounted outside on his building, so I am going to do the UV spar polyurethane on it, and you'll get to see the finished product, so stay tuned. All right, so it's the next day. Epoxy's fully cured. I let it sit 24 hours. I got some 80 grit on the sander. I'm going to use 80 grit, pretty coarse. That way it knocks this down flush pretty quick for me, and then I'm going to switch over to probably like a 220. And then up to, I'll probably hit it one more time with like a 400 to make it nice and smooth before we put the sealer coat on there. Let's get sanding. So I got this all sanded down. I did the 80 grit to start, and I hit it with a 220. I actually went to 400 on it and got it nice and smooth. Wet. I used like a wet sponge, one of these, like they're like a wax application pad. I wet these, wipe it down to pop the grain, and I also sand it one more time as well. So let me hold that up there. Looks really nice and smooth. You can see there's a couple little places where dust gets in, where there's a couple little air bubbles, but honestly, I've tried so hard to eliminate them all, and I can't figure out how to do it. So once the finish is put on, you don't see any of it. So I think one thing I may invest in here in the near future is one of those pressure pots. I already have a vacuum pump for doing AC work, so all I need is the pot, and I heard that helps a lot by pulling air out of the epoxy. I don't have one and haven't really needed it yet, but I may get one. So I said in the earlier recording, when I recorded a couple days ago, I was going to use a spar polyurethane. I'm actually going to use a Rust-Oleum clear top coat. It's UV resistant and it dries a lot faster. I think this dries in, I think it was 3 hours. Full dry in 2 to 4 hours. So the spar polyurethane takes 24 hours to dry. And this is not going to be in direct sunlight. It's going to be mounted to a building underneath a front porch. So this will work for what we're doing just as good. I am going to apply it with the foam brush. It says natural bristle. You can actually spray this as well. I'm not going to do that. So hopefully it turns out really nice just by using the foam brush. Stuff looks so funny when you put it on. It's like so milky. It looks like Elmer's glue almost, but it does dry. It does dry perfectly clear. Try to get as much finish in these, the laser etching as I can. And what I'll do is if they're standing, if it pulls up inside any of these etchings here, I just use a really small paintbrush and kind of go in and remove the puddling of the polyurethane. This isn't doing too bad. A lot of it's soaking in. The second coat, it'll have, you'll definitely get some more of the puddling inside your engravings here. One thing I do with these brushes is after I get the whole piece painted, just take your thing like this and run all the way down your workpiece and it's kind of smooths out if you have any brush marks or anything. And it'll help pop a little bit of the air bubbles. So that's coat number 1. I think it looks really nice. Hope he's going to be happy with it. I'm going to zoom out a little bit here so you can see the whole thing. I think it's going to look really nice. I'm happy with it. Alright, we're going to let that dry 2 to 4 hours until it's dry. I'm going to take a piece of probably somewhere in the 300 grit range, resand it. It pops any of the bubbles, and it'll also remove any dust that may have fallen in this. And then we're going to do another coat. And in my experience, there's no set amount of coats with poly. I kind of do it until it completely soaks in and the wood stops sucking it in. And then after the wood stops sucking it in, I normally do 2 more on top of that. So that's what we're going to do. So this sign turned out really good, guys. I'm very happy with it. I did end up doing 3 coats of this Rust-Oleum clear top coat here. It is UV resistant, even though the sign, it's going to be outside, but it's going to be up against the building and there's a big front porch. So it's not going to be getting direct sunlight. But I did do 3 coats of this, front and back, top and bottom, everywhere. I hope he's going to like it. I'm going to bring it by there today, and we're going to get it mounted up on the building for him. And I hope he's happy with it. I sure am. I think it looks great. Let me pan up on it so you guys can see a little closer here. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. These videos, when I do these videos, it takes me 2 to 3 times longer to film and edit than it does just for me to come out here and do it on my own. I think I'm just over 500 subscribers now, so if you would, please subscribe. If you find any value in these videos, like and especially comment. It really, really helps the YouTube algorithm to show the videos to more people who might be interested in learning something. And I make a few bucks. Once I'm monetized, I'll make a few dollars on the videos, and it helps. So thank you very much for watching, guys. I appreciate it.